Hi, I'm Alex Goldberg, a playwright who wrote The Six Pianos of Miradero, which is part of the Zip Code Play series at Antaeus Theater Company. If you'd like to hear more, please listen to this conversation. I was very fortunate to work with the Antaeus Theater Company on their Zip Code Play series. I've been involved with their Playwrights Lab for years now, and they had a call go out for story ideas based on zip codes. And my story, Annexing the Palisades, which was set in the Pacific Palisades, was picked. And it was really a remarkable experience. First off, it's a professional theater company, so everything they're doing is across the board, highest quality they can do. And second of all, is during the pandemic, so we were all starved for something, and theater took a huge hit because it's live. So they found a way by doing radio plays to make a theatrical experience that isn't as limiting as Zoom is. Zoom is wonderful, but you don't want to necessarily watch live theater on Zoom. So it was a great experience. The rehearsal process was very quick, but the actors were all pros, and the experience was great. I was so happy to have a play picked and produced as well as it was, and then when lightning struck and I got to do it again a second time for season 3, I was just ecstatic. There were a few lessons to take from the first Zip Code play, which should have helped me in the second one if I had chosen to follow my own advice. What I learned from the first one is audio is a character, and you need to make it an important part of the play because that's how all information is transmitted. And I sort of ignored that, not in ignoring audio. I definitely utilized it as best I could, but I picked a play that was set in basically one room and with very little outside audio influences. So it was basically a drawing room play with a few little noises here and there. And Jeff Gardner, who's the audio designer, did a wonderful job. And I threw some things at him, which I know he would enjoy. But I could have gone further, and other playwrights in the series really utilized this format so they could take it outside of a traditional theater space and be like, well, we can go from location to location. We can do different things. I didn't do that as much. So in a sense, it was a failure, but I still think that the play is a good audio play. So following the first season of the radio plays, and theater company would have events, salons, where they would do a listening party, and then they'd have a panel and discuss the play and that sort of thing. And following the first panel, a woman named Arlene Vidor approached me via email, and she is one of the board members or trustees of the theater company, and she's also a Glendale historian. And she said, well, the theater's in Glendale. We'd love to have a Glendale story. And I knew right away, she's the perfect person to talk about it with. And so I said, you tell me some ideas, tell me some stories that are important to Glendale history, and I would be happy to dramatize it. And so for months, she and I went back and forth, and she had some ideas, and all of her ideas were very good story ideas. But some of them either didn't resonate with me or weren't my story to tell. And the different stories are about different people, and I won't get into that. But like some stories aren't for me to be the playwright for. But this one about Leslie Brand, who was one of the city's founders, and what happens right after he passes away, it really hit me. And I said, oh, I know how this story is going to work. I know how we can increase the dramatic stakes in the short format, and I know how we will, make it exciting. And I also understand these characters, and I feel for all of them, which is important when you write. You have to, put yourself in every character's shoes. So the Six Pianos of Miradero tells the story of Leslie Brand. He is one of the real life city founders of Glendale. The city existed, but it was basically a small farming community. He moved here, saw the potential, not just for the city and the beautiful area that he loved, but also the potential for him to get extremely stupid rich. And he did just that. He bought huge tracts of land. He brought commerce to Glendale, brought railway lines, brought water, brought electricity, and then started selling off his land into subdivisions, became enormously wealthy. And when he passed away, he wound up leaving most of his estate to the city of Glendale, most notably the Brand Library, which was his house at the time. It was called El Miradero. Huge house on a hill. If you haven't seen it, look it up and you'll recognize it. Anyone who lived in LA and knows Glendale sees it sitting on the hill. So it also learned in my research about him that he was a bigamist. He was married and then married a second time when he got a younger woman pregnant. So I guess in his mind, bigamy is less of a crime than having a bastard child. So he wound up marrying 2 women. And so this is a story about the reading of the will after he passes. And the people present at the will reading are the lawyer and his 2 wives who discover each other's who they are early on in the story. It's always a joy working with Antaeus because they bring together such wonderful people. I had known Lisa Dring for about a year. I had actually met her during the pandemic, so I never met her in person, but I witnessed her do some script analysis of another script. I hired her to do some work on one of my scripts, and then this opportunity came up, said I want her to direct because she is truly a captain. All directors have to be able to completely run the room. And it's very difficult for these radio plays because the rehearsal process is so quick. So once she was on board, I was very happy. And then, it's such a joy to go to the theater and have that meeting where you discuss casting. You have like a list of so many wonderful actors, like 5 to 7 people that could easily jump into these roles. And we agreed on our first choices. Kitty Swink plays Mary Louise Brand. She's one of the former artistic directors of the theater and just a powerhouse of an actor. Peter James Smith is one of my favorite actors that I've ever watched, let alone worked with. He's been involved in and out with the theater company for years. He was on The West Wing. He was one of the staffers. So he, was in 75 or 60 episodes of The West Wing. And Alex Hellquist rounds out our triangle of actors. And she is just a fearless person. And when I was writing the script, I actually had her in mind because there were some emotional twists that happened on a dime. And not many people could do that convincingly. And I knew she could. So having those 3 actors, having the director, just a great all-star team, and we were ready to go. What I would like audiences to take from this play is that with every empire that is built, with every great city or great buildings that rise up, it comes at the sacrifice of many people. And those people often go unrecognized. You will know, they always say history is written by the victors. And that is true. We have Brand Boulevard in Glendale, which he literally named after himself. That wasn't named in his honor. He named it that. And he's got this building named after him, and he did so much. But you don't hear about the people who sacrifice for that dream and for that vision. And I wanted to highlight a story about 2 women in his life who did just that. And they had to put aside maybe their dreams or ambitions so he could get his. I enjoy listening to all of the Zip Code plays because in this short play format, you're instantly immersed in a different neighborhood. And when the audio is done well, and with Jeff Gardner, it always is, right away, you can tell a little bit where you are by what you're hearing. Are you hearing highways? Are you hearing ocean? Are you hearing, urban cityscape? And which urban cityscape are you hearing? There's so many different sounds of Los Angeles, just like there are so many different neighborhoods. So that's what I want to do, is be immersed right away into story about people that I don't know, but I want to get to know them. People should listen to the Zip Code plays to find out more about Los Angeles in a dramatic way. You can find out about Los Angeles in many different ways, but it's a great intro to be a fly on the wall in people's lives and in their most dramatic or comic moments. Not only, hear a compelling story and follow a journey of people, but at the same time, learn about a neighborhood. Antaeus Playwrights Lab has had a special relationship within the theater company there. It initially formed as sort of an offshoot. It's a bunch of playwrights gathered. This is probably about 10 years ago, maybe more, and had the opportunity to try out new works once a week, utilizing the actors from the company. And the actors were great. They would do cold readings. They would sit down, they would pass out scripts, and they would just read 20 minutes of each play cold. And it's such a gift to the writers to have that, because the actors are going to do great work. You don't have to worry, oh, well, it would have been better if the actor didn't mess it up or read slowly. No, they're always doing great work. But for the longest time, the theater company wasn't necessarily affiliated other than, you can use our space once a week. You can, any actors want to show up, that's great. But there was never any real crossover until a few years ago. The theater company made a big sea change and they said, we want to embrace the new classics in addition to the old classics. New classics being plays that they felt were strong and could stand the test of time. And they already had this, this laboratory for it. They had playwrights doing work with their actors already. So a few years ago, a year before the pandemic, was the first time they started producing stage readings in their lab results series, where they actually took the time to take an entire play, cast it, and then rehearse it, and then do a stage reading. And then the following year, they actually produced 2 plays on their stage. So it was the first time they had actually left the world of the classics, the established plays, and said, we're going to do something contemporary. And I think it was wildly successful for them. At least it was for me as an audience member to go and see these plays. So in the last few years, they've embraced it, and the lab has become much more a part of the theater program. As for the entire LA theater community, I feel Antaeus is a strong place for people to develop their work. And there are a lot of playwrights in town, but knowing that 40 to 50 of them are in the lab really puts Antaeus like front and center in LA theater new play development. There are a lot of great places that are doing it, and a lot of the writers are working in various places, but I feel that when you have that badge that says you're part of the Playwrights Lab, there are people in LA know what that is. I think Antaeus Theater Company is a great place for actors and playwrights to work stuff out, to get stuff done, to be creative. And that's what we all want. The reason why theater thrives in Los Angeles is because it is predominantly a film and TV town. And as any actor will tell you, film and TV work, when you get it, while it is lucrative, it may not be as fulfilling. Sure, you're going to want to book that commercial and you're going to want to, talk about toothpaste for one day and make some money, but that's not why you fell in love with it. That's not why you fell in love with acting. So to have a theater company that, staging works, and there's many around town that are consistently staging great work. And you see the love, you see the actors who are doing their craft and doing it well. It's feeding their soul in the way that commercials and TV and film, feed their paycheck. Live theater is coming back. It is very exciting. Hopefully we're nearing the end of this pandemic as a dangerous place where it is now. And now more than ever, it's important to support live theater, not just to help keep these theaters afloat after years of them not doing what they're meant to be doing, but also it's good for us. It's good for our souls. We spend all of our time either in front of a computer or, in an office working and that sort of thing. And the reason why we initially all fell in love with theater is because it's a shared experience between audience members collectively watching real human beings do something, and so that's what's exciting. And I encourage everyone to, as soon as it's safe for you, go out and see some live theater. It'll benefit you. It'll benefit the theater company. Theater companies like Antaeus are extremely important to the local artistic scene. Every city has theater companies, and they're the heart. Arts are the heart and soul of any city. And it's always the same when cities grow, is there's a vibrant arts community, and then it draws people in. People come in and they go to the theater and they go to the restaurant next door. And so that restaurant benefits, and they go to a bar afterwards and that sort of thing. Theater not only employs people and creates great art, but it helps to foster community. LA is made up of, as we see in the zip code plays, dozens of small communities. And if you look not even too hard, you'll see that in most of these communities, there is a live performance scene, and support it. You don't have to go too far. You don't have to sit in traffic. Although I would say some of the, not all of them, but some of them like Antaeus are worth sitting in traffic for. Hi, I'm Alex Goldberg, and I'm a playwright. I wrote the Six Pianos of Miradero, which is part of the Zip Code Plays radio series at Antaeus Theater Company. All 3 seasons of the Zip Code Play series, which are short plays set in different Los Angeles zip codes, are available, and they're available for free.